It's whiter than this.
Well, so that's just pretend tan you've got on there?
Pretend tan. What a way to start the show. Everyone's learning that Dan's got fake tan.
I think I like this impromptu start to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Blue Abroad Show. We're just talking about tans and lighting. Pommy, Good evening to you, mate.
Good evening, yeah, and good evening from the new light that is in front of me. I went and bought a new light, and this tan is light fake. So just don't be alarmed. I haven't gone to a solarium. I'm being true. This is just slightly off tan, it's called. Off tan. So I've got a natural glow.
I'll be getting myself in the solly when winter hits, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't see the outdoors. This is my offset. In the summer, we'll use the soft tan, and the winter, we'll just use the white light.
Yeah. Yes, as I said, good evening to everybody. Sandra, apologies for being late. I do apologize. I promised to go a little bit overboard over time tonight, so we can catch up on time. We've got a massive show tonight, Pommy. We need to talk about a few things. We need to talk about the AFLW, the review, and the findings, which I didn't mention to you earlier today. We need to talk about Zac Williams. We need to talk about his replacement, Oleg Markov, the fallout. We then have 6 players to preview tonight. And then, for those of you that were here last week, we have a game to play, and we need to beat our score from last week. So it's all happening.
Mate, fun-packed, adventure-filled show.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a feeling we're going to go through the whole range of emotions, and we're going to get serious at some points, and then we're going to have a bit of fun at others. I think no matter what happens, by the end of the show, we're all going to be excited and counting down the day till we, start our next flag tilt. It's 38 days away, mate.
Mate, I've had some relationships that are shorter than that, so it's not that long to wait.
True. I want to start by thanking the members, of course, of the channel. Got a new member today. Very big fan of the channel. I'm hoping that he's watching right now. His name is Chris Psoras, and I thought I'd just give him a special shout out because he's been running with an idea for a while now. He gives us ideas for videos here and there. He wants to get something started. I might put this to the cheer squad, but Cripps being the bull that he is, he's got this idea that every time Cripps gets the ball, we should be chanting "Ole!" Like the ball going through with the matador. So we'll see if that sticks for the watch along. Maybe
we can easily do that. One word. We can smash that out. Easy done. Consider it done.
Consider it done, Chris. Obviously, thank you to everybody who tunes in, supports the channel. If you are yet to subscribe, it costs nothing and it helps the channel tremendously. So if you are watching right now and you're not subscribed on YouTube, just hit that button and get into it. Pommy, let's start with, why don't we start with the AFLW? The review, the findings, what happened. Basically, obviously we did an external review. We don't know what we did. Would we contract? We sought out some external experts, some from the AFL in general, and the findings came down. And long story short, standards were raised. Standards were spoken about. The need for a full-time coach. Obviously, Harford is no longer with the club. Munro no longer with the club. Really, a lot of the things that we've been talking about for a while. And, I'm not here to celebrate somebody getting sacked, but at the same time, I'm here talking about this because it was really dreadful watching them play, to be honest. For the last season, I completely tuned out, and I sort of told myself that until something resembles a team that is taking it seriously, I'm just not interested. And it's sad because I was really into it.
Yeah, I've got to talk about the review because I've been a big fan of Luke Sayers, and I've backed him probably every time. Much to my DMs will show, I've probably backed him too much at times. But the opening bit of when they said, Harford, we'd like to thank him for his undeniable commitment to the AFLW. And then you go about 8 paragraphs down and they go, full-time is definitely one of the things. And because of Harford's off-field things, he couldn't be committed to a full-time role. That blagged my head because I'm like, okay, well, is he committed or is he not committed?
Yeah.
Because for me, if the club said, right, we will quarter your salary, 30K a year, and you can be the full-time AFLW coach, I would quit my job tomorrow at a financial loss because I'm committed. I'd want to do that. Blagged my head. But I will say, I do find it bizarre the club didn't do this. We've been very heavily critical, and I don't blame Harford 100%. No. Probably 99.9%. There will be 0.1% laying elsewhere, but he had to go. But I question why the club did it at this time, because at this stage now, we've lost numerous top quality players. The list management system hasn't been addressed. And I want to put this to the fan base. Brad Lloyd in 2019, I believe it was, they redefined his role. So he encompassed the AFLW, was sold to the members as a way of making the men and the women equal because they have the same football manager. How is Brad Lloyd avoiding every sacking? This guy is amazing. Like, I want him to be my boss. Like, literally, and teach me a thing or two. But there's the question there. And they have mentioned now that obviously our Geelong hero Cook is now going to oversee the AFLW to help it on its way. It does worry me because I agree with you. I don't think, and I mean this with love, I don't think the AFLW system has been taken seriously. Seriously. And I know Debbie's saying he's under contract. That's bollocks. It's a media contract. It's a media contract. The Carlton Football Club are one of the richest football sporting clubs in the world, right? Per capita. You're telling me no one could have rang RSN and said, tell you what, here's $500,000. Give us him. It is Carlton Football Club, after all. We are famous for doing that. So I don't believe it. They wanted to sack him. They worded it, in my opinion, the worst sacking I've ever seen because it was really divery and they should have hit to the point. And the facts are, love half, hate half, simply ain't good enough. He's out of his depth, as was David Teague, as was Brendan Bolton. Just tell the truth. Half didn't care. He was straight on the blower, taking the piss out of the club.
Yeah, that was the parting gift as well. It's almost like he knew that it wasn't being taken, excuse the pun, but half serious. He knew that was, he seemed to know that was a situation. Look, at the end of the day, we'd probably be sitting here complaining if the women's team were doing well and the men's team was still underperforming. So either way, we're going to probably find a way to be critical of something. But yeah, just the depths in which the AFL program represented the footy club, really disappointing. So, okay, we've done this now. The reviews happened. We've made the sackings. We've given ourselves a nice reason to let some people go, and we can obviously blame the external experts now for it. Whatever. Let's just move on, get it right, do what needs to be done, get it right. And I really want to enjoy it. I do. I really want to enjoy it. And I think for the kids out there, the young girls out there that want to play football, they need heroes, and they had them, and they lost them to other clubs. So. Whatever. It's just, I just don't want it to be a representation of the club in a negative way. And I think it got too far gone.
Big thing you've hit, and that's the C word. And this is why I implore everyone to back the women's team, because you look at soccer, Man United, Chelsea, Man City have invested massive money into their women. Man United have come from nowhere recently, leading the Women's Premier League. And the reason Man United gave, when a lot of the idiots come out and go, oh, it's women's football, why are we paying for them? Is when you wear our badge, you represent 200 years of history. So it has to be done right, because we don't do things by halves. We're Man United. Same with Carlton. We want a culture that transcends under 19s, women, men, where you come here and you win football matches. So I agree with you. We've got to get behind it and be proud of it. Be proud of it. And I'd love to see some women on that coaching panel. Carlton are one of the few clubs that don't have a women. We've seen Sandra mention Bree Davey. There's a very talented woman out there called Daisy Pearce, who is messing about with the Geelong team. Wouldn't it be great to get a woman on board, teach the culture from that? And she is a Carlton fan, I believe, is my favourite, Daisy Pearce. So
Really?
I would love Daisy at the football club.
Yeah. No, look, not much more to be said other than, it's done. Get it right. And stop having the AFLW program be such a poor representation of the club. Let's just get serious about it. And we can move on and we'll see what happens. I don't have too much faith in it yet. I'm not ready to jump back on board yet, but I guess this was something that needed to happen. We all knew it needed to happen. It wasn't rocket science.
If there was writing on the wall, I thought there was writing on the wall for about 2 years. So here we are. We're there now. Move on. Hopefully we get someone new in, fresh ideas. That would be grouse. I'd love to see a Daisy Pearce, but definitely if Luke Sayers is watching this, which I know he does, I know that we're his favourite show. Get me some girls there to teach the pride and get some females in there. That's what I want to see.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. We were given some unfortunate news over the weekend. Unfortunately, Zac Williams ruptured his ACL. He's out for the season. The reactions have come, they've gone, they're probably still going. Probably was a trickle of events. I think it was a weekend and a few days where you just turn Twitter off. You swipe out of Twitter. I think today was one of those anti-social media days as well for the Carlton fraternity because it just sparked all sorts of things. But yeah, look, first and foremost, for Zac, I mean, it's crippling. It's bloody crippling. And, he needs support more than anything right now. And I'm sure he's getting that from the club. The boys obviously have to get on with it. Next man up. All of that is very valid. But yeah, I think for the most part, we need to always try and remember that they're human beings. Yes, there's salary cap implications. Yes, there's investment and X amount of the salary cap and highly paid and highly invested and, hasn't really performed to the level that we want him to yet. Yes, all of that is true. And we can discuss that. Now is just not that time. I just think Zac, yeah, it's a tough one to swallow, but obviously we have to get on with it. That's the nature of the beast.
It's a big kick in between the legs, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
But I mean, I want to preface what we say when we get to a structural thing about what happens with the football club. Zac Williams, you got to put it as a young man having a kid. That is a huge mental task, and I'm not downplaying what women do. I'm just talking from a man's side. It is a massive culture shock to you. It's a massive culture shock. The things you feel. I've gone through it with all my kids as well. It's a real sense of change, belonging, and you question a lot of things about your life. So I'd imagine that was stressful. Zac Williams went through a personal program, different training program. By all reports and everyone I've spoke to inside and outside of the club, he was taking the piss with how fit he was. I was told that basically from the reports, it was a routine thing he did. He moved the wrong way. It went, but it was a repeatable action he's done 1,000 times. And you've got to remember as well, he's got a close relationship with Finlayson as well. And he's been helping Finlayson, and we send all of our love from Blue Abroad and the Carlton community to Finlayson. God knows what he is going through. I can't even imagine what he's going through. And to be your best mate as well, you bear the brunt of that as well. So God, I imagine his mental state is the worst mental state you can possibly be in at all. I can't imagine what Zac is feeling. So Godspeed to him. But I don't want to risk saying what Voss says, next man up. But it opens a door. And I want to just remind you all, this time last year, we were talking about our best 22. A young lad called Lewis Young was on our list. And most people were saying, seen him at the Doggies, he's shit. Doggies got rid of him, he's rubbish. He's not it. It's Oscar McDonald. Oscar McDonald went down about this time. And he had them little niggles. He made round one. Then we didn't see him. And then Lewis Young came in. And rest is history. Lewis Young was probably one of our best defenders for large parts. This just opens the door to someone to basically make it hard for Zac. Make it hard for Zac Williams to come in. Am I worried? Not really. Do you know what I mean? Because he played 9 games, if I'm going to be harsh. 9 games, 6 of them wins. It's not the hardest position to play in world football either. Do you know what I mean? These are the 2 positions we talk about a lot from draftees doing it round 1. So, but that being said, Zac Williams, Can't wait to see you back out. Mercurial talent. What a footballer. But
yeah,
these things happen. And if you're a Carlton, come on, if you're upset about an injury and you're a Carlton fan now, I question why. You should be used to this.
should be used to it. We are used to it. Yeah, it's just, I think in my head, to win a flag, everything's got to go right. And so when you get these big batches of news, like Walsh, I wouldn't put in the same category because I know that we're going to see Walsh this year at some point. I know he's going to be there. I know he's going to impact. It's just, you already go into a season. We're 38 days away and we know we're not going to have Zac Williams. However, we're 38 days away from a season and this has happened. So we've got 38 days to prepare the next person as opposed to, we're flying. Let's just say this time last year, or, after 10 rounds, we're 8-2. And then let's just say something happens then. You can't do much during the season. You just got to plug a hole and hope for the best. So at least now the game plan, everyone can get on the same page about what needs to happen. We lose a guy who is a dasher. He's a guy that generates ball forward. We have plenty of them, but I don't think we have them of the ilk of Zac Williams. Having said that, let's be practical about it. What are the options moving forward? Well, we know Lachie Cowan, I don't want to put pressure on him, but opportunity. These are the opportunities that these young players end up coming in for. Brody Kemp, is that an option? I don't know. Marchbank, if he can stay fit and healthy now, his spot is it's just right there. McGovern's in the same ilk. Today, reports were made that Oleg Markov is all but set to be signed by us, which is not a bad. He's the best of the rest of what's available after. Obviously, you go into a season planning for Zac Williams. However, shit happens. Life happens. Injuries happen. So it's happened. So you just got to move on to the next solution. And I actually think someone like Oleg Markov, with the experience that he's got, playing in Richmond during their premiership runs, he's a handy player. He was a handy player for Gold Coast. I'm not exactly sure why they let go of him, if I'm honest. But I always watched him last year and thought he was a really handy player. And, he's a senior guy on a list who's been in the system for a while and knows his way around, and he's a professional. So if that's the way we go, I'm excited.
Well, there's a couple of points I want to cover. First, I don't want to hear anyone go on Twitter. I know a good mate of mine made a joke about it. Where's Stocker? Right? But you've got to look at what you're replacing. Zac Williams, best 22, very evasive, good user of the football, penetrating kick. That, honestly, that is like comparing Rosie O'Donnell with Taylor Swift. If you're comparing him with that, we're talking different types, different everything. So Stocker, forget about it. I don't want to hear about it at all. Ban yourself. Remove him from your comments. Right. Then, who are you going to bring? So you've got to think, first 22, Williams. If I'm Nick Austin, if it was someone else, but he is best 22, which means now I've got to play whoever his backup is. Let's say it was Nick Newman, right? Let's say it's Nick Newman because that's the likeliest thing, right? Now I've got to find a backup for Nick Newman. So suddenly he becomes Williams. Now, Sincott has been mentioned quite a bit. Would love that if the injury was Boyd. If the injury was Boyd, who is probably third in that rank, okay, cool. You've got two guys ahead of him. Sincott has been missed in a few drafts. AFL clubs don't make mistakes, especially with undraftees that frequently. He would be a guy you bring in, keep on the list in VFL, reward him with a senior contract. Then he makes it round 12, round 14 after a lot of work. Would you want him playing round 1? No, you wouldn't, because the first question is, can he play AFL football? You don't know. Same with Tyrese Lau. Love him. Big risk. Oleg Markov. He's been delisted by 2 clubs. He's had his fair share of injuries. However, he is quick, he is evasive, and he is rated as an elite kick of the football who can intercept. And he's got a great mustache. He is a no-brainer if you're Nick Austin. An absolute no-brainer. Because you are like, round 1, if he has to play, is he an all-star? Probably not. But he can play. He can play. There is no questions. He is, at worst, manageable at AFL level. There is no questions, which then allows you, should Boyd be long-term injury or should someone go on that LTI, you should be fine. But it does look by reports, I can see Manny's in there. It looks like Markov has turned his back on the Collingwood deal and has gone to us, especially at Cripper's comments just before he went off air. Cripper kind of alluded, I don't know if anyone's seen it, but Cripper kind of alluded it was Oleg, but then quickly dropped in but it's up to the list manager and crew. But it looks, and it makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It makes sense.
Yeah. I think the optimist in me says, all right, as I said earlier, the opportunity comes for the next person, young fella, could be a Cowan, who knows, right? The other side of me, and this is where I'm just mindful, is that between McGovern and Marchbank, bless them both, love them both, can I really go into a season confident that they're going to play regular football? Not yet. I'm hopeful. It just means I've got more of a reliance on the two of them being fit and healthy all season. And if they are, not an issue at all. Not an issue at all.
Mate, spot on. And Ollie nails it there. Crisis creates opportunity. This is a ruthless industry, a real cutthroat industry. So if you're Lachie Cowan, you're Oleg Markov, your priority right now should be retiring Zac Williams. That should be your priority. You should be, right, you know what? Lachie may have been thinking, maybe by the bye, I can break into this side, be thereabouts. Suddenly now his mindset is round one. Am I ready? And when I am going to get that opportunity, I'll take it. Oleg probably was thinking, shit, I'm probably going to be in Bali for most of March. Now I'm on an AFL list. Third crack. How many opportunities does Oleg want to become an AFL footballer? This is his last opportunity because you won't get delisted 3 times. So for me, it's a huge opportunity. And isn't it nice for me, as good as Cowan is, and I assure you Cowan could play round one and be very good. There is no doubt in my mind. For me, the pick of our draftees by a long way. Some guy that I will guarantee will play a lot of games for this football club. I will just say this about him, gives him that break. Suddenly, Lachie doesn't have to be forced to play. He can earn the route. And if he beats Oleg from now till round one, what a W. What a W. Because we know he's good enough then. But it just means that we can nurse him through. And especially if he does start, let's just say Cowan does beat him. He has a few issues, round 4 or 5. We can piss him off to the VFL. Oleg plays for a couple of weeks so he can work on his craft. It's a real exciting time. So I like it. If it does go through, I think it's genius. It's probably the best acquisition this football club has picked up in about 5 years because we haven't taken the piss with an LTI. Usually it's Callum Moore who's doing nipple shots 2 days later. This is an actual footballer.
It's a good point. I guess we'll see how it plays out, but you know, I'm not worried about the group at all. I've got a lot of faith in this group. They've withstood adversity before. They did a pretty good job last year, notwithstanding what happened towards the end. But yeah, I think they'll be okay. So.
Did anyone else remember that as well when I brought that up? Do you remember when Callum Moore did sign that contract and that night he was at a wedding doing nipple shots on Insta? Never forget. The most Carlton thing I have ever seen at that time.
Oh, we've come a long way.
Oleg, if you're watching, mate, when you do get the contract, please just go off socials for 2 weeks. Just make me think you're training.
Was he a premiership player? Did he play in any of the premierships?
In the 2 years he was there that they won a flag, he played most games up till round 23. He didn't play in the final series in 17, and he played a handful of games in the 19 era due to, I hate to say it, injury. But he was very highly regarded by Richmond, just never quite got going. Gold Coast, I was surprised at Gold Coast, but I understand where Gold Coast are. And by a lot of reports from my scouts in Queensland, he never quite settled to Queensland lifestyle. So it was maybe a mutual decision, is what I'm told from my Gold Coast spies.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's start with the player previews for tonight. So we're going to start with number 25. I'm going to start us off with this one. I'm going to absolutely enjoy myself here. Zac Fisher, number 25. We sat here previewing him last year, Pommy, and I was absolutely slated for giving him too much love. And I thought he had, well, no, not I thought, he did. He had the best season of his career. He was averaged elite in disposals at 19, just a tick under, elite in kicks, handballs. He really elevated himself. Forget about the numbers for a moment. Just overall high level, he really elevated himself and took the step that we wanted and needed him to make last year. He was a lot more tougher. He kicked goals. He kicked crucial goals. Round 1 last year, we all remember that. The Sydney game, he had some really clever moments, and he played all 22 games as well. And that's a really big deal for him because he was coming off 2 consecutive seasons of having a big chunk of the season ripped away from him due to injury. So, Ethan, good call. The barometer last year, he was certainly one of those players where when he played well, we played well. And I think, I don't know, like I still think he can go up another level. I really do. I think he's got some more to give. You know, kicked 18 goals last season. If he creeps into the 20s this year, having, 20 touches a game, playing that half forward role, pinch hitting in the midfield when we need him, because he's very clever. He's definitely been in the system long enough now to get his body to a point where he can cope with the physicality. So I love Fish. I'm a big Fisher fan. Also, shout out to his lovely partner, Bella. She is the GOAT of the Wags at Carlton, and I will die on this hill. So shout out to you, Bella.
Well, I mean, I remember the show. It was very similar to this show as well because we had 25 and 30 and we both made bold calls. One about your boy Fisher, which you were proven right. He did really have a good year and one of the 3 players to play every game as well, it might add. So he was durable, which is very important at this football club. And I fell in love with Charlie Curnow, and I do remember people saying trade bait. Both of them will never play again. Won't be on the list 2024. So both of our boys going well. What I liked about Zac is I think you saw a man who had a coach that loved him, that had faith. You remember the year before David T came out and said he's not a midfielder, he's a forward. Credit to him. He's going to learn to be a forward. You saw ever since then, he kind of was going through the motions, wasn't he? And the thing about Zac is he plays with a smile on his face. He looks like he's having a bit of fun out there. He does them weird handshakes with Cripper and stuff, and that's his quirky personality. You saw last year he had that fun again. And then towards the end of the year, when we got injuries, started to go on the midfield, and boy, did he make a few ex-coaches look ridiculous, particularly that round 15 and round 18 game against Geelong, the best midfield in the comp, statistically, racking up 27 touches and kind of starting to show he's not scared of taking the game on. Definitely some guy now that this year for me, it's adding that consistency. I want to see that Geelong game, not 1-2 games a year. I want to see 7-9 games a year. If he can find that, he goes from me to being a solid squad player to maybe in that second tier. Do you know what I mean? And really adding it. If he can have them goals and add that point of difference, I think it's huge. And he's definitely going to be that guy you're looking for in that rotation in the midfield. Great year. I reckon there's more ahead.
The one thing about him I always felt, and it's the core reason why I have so much faith in him, is that when he plays and when he's healthy, he's 100% in the 22. I don't look at Zac as being in our top 5, most elite players. I don't think he needs to be, but I think he's got a real confidence about himself, which I love. But he's still very humble. I kind of want him to be a little bit more confident than what he is humble and really start announcing himself to the rest of the competition. Because I just think we all know how nimble he can be. The big thing last year was that elevation in physicality and the elevation in taking his moments, kicking goals. He kicked 2 goals in 5. He kicked multiple goals on 5 occasions last season. And like I said, if we can get 18 goals to become even 25 goals, just a little bit more of an uptick, it's going to be massive for us. And I believe he can do it.
One of the big things no one talks about as well is in the third quarter part of the year, round 12 to 18, he averaged 5.8 marks, right? And most of them were uncontested. And that was a big thing for Carlton, getting the spread. And we started to see Zac Williams Zac Fisher work incredibly hard up the ground to help his midfield out, which was the outlet ball. And that was something that died off after the 8-2 start. He was the one who single-handedly tried to bring that back. And that is an understated role, how hard Zac Fisher works without any real reward. No one talks about that. And that's something that Zac Fisher doesn't really do. And it shows how hard he was working for his team. So I'm with you. I think he adds a bit of goals, tries to get that consistency level. Just get that consistency. I don't want him to average 30, but just try and get a plateau and so we know what we're getting. I think he's a real handy footballer. And I think, again, you're seeing a player that is performing because of the love of his coach. The coach has shown him faith. Zac has been open. He's a midfielder. Voss released him on the midfield. And you know what? He never looked back. And this is a big year now for him because he's proved he can do it. Let's go up a gear, Zac. Go up a gear now. Go into that next echelon. And he's going to be a handy footballer for the football club.
All Australian 2023.
Oh, dear. Here it is.
I had to. Fuck it.
Mate, he's got the game, hasn't he? Let's be honest. All Australian. I think he could, no joke to him, he can play that Whitfield type role. Do you know what I mean? Who's half a midfielder, half a forward. I've got no reason. And I would say Zac Fisher has the easiest job at Carlton Football Club, along with whoever is not the first four inside midfielders. Who's getting that 20% time could win us football games. So I think Fisher could be that guy. I reckon 4/5 change on the ball rotation when they're tired. You saw it against Geelong. When Geelong started to tire, he took the piss. He could be. He could be. And he's got a midfield. Look at the midfield he's playing with. Hewett, Cripps. I could play in that midfield and look tasty. Do you know what I mean? So he's got it all for him. And he's got the box of tricks. Keep the fun there. Work hard. And I like Zac Fisher. You've made me a believer, Terry.
Love it. I love it. All right. Ugo with the $80. Very generous, as always. Thank you very much, mate. He says he's enjoying the show. Appreciate that.
We love you, Ugo.
Next up, Lachie Cowan. Tell you what, I might need to do the tier video again, the tier maker video, because I had Lachie Cowan in the 5th tier.
Absolutely lambasted, my boy. Can't believe the disrespect.
You can't get him all right, and I did not get this one right. But more importantly, he's going to become a bit more of a factor. We just spoke about him. You mentioned about the opportunity that arises. Boom, here it is. Welcome to the AFL, young man. Pommy, I know nothing about Lachie Cowan, so I'll let you take this one.
Well, I mean, I've been hot on this guy for way too long, haven't I? Let's be honest. And probably the happiest I've ever been when Carlton have taken out a draft pick, because I didn't expect it. But you're talking about a guy that, if you play fantasy sport, was the second behind Will Ashcroft in points scored, which is incredible. You're incredible. Wow. You're talking here about the real deal footballer. You're looking at Cade Simpson today. That's what you're looking for. A player like Cade Simpson came through the draft now. That's what he's got. He's tall. He's hard. Booming kick. Biggest kick at the club by a long way. Lots of penetration. Tacks it hard. He's a little fierce mongrel as well. You like Stocker. This guy ain't scared of getting his physicality out and hurting people. He is a danger. And again, Carlton have benefited because the Victorian bias in AFL ignores Tasmania. And this guy here, in my opinion, I'll stand by it, top 10 in the draft. Top 10 on talent. This kid balls. This kid balls. Can't wait to see him play.
Interesting. Well, the thing that hasn't really been highlighted enough is the fact that he was the captain of his state team. So he comes with experience in leadership role, which is really exciting for someone who, you're going to be putting him, if he's going to play in the ones, it's going to be, just go out there and enjoy yourself, young fella, play your role. We're not expecting too much of you. Play an honest game and play to your strengths, and we'll cover for you, that sort of thing. So yeah, he could potentially be a real surprise packet for us. John's nailed it. The world is his oyster. It's the truth. But as mindful as I am to put too much pressure on any draftee coming through, there is definitely something about this one when you look at him training, you just look at him.
As skill sets go, you look at Carlton's skill set, you'd say that in an ideal world, one of Marchbank and McGovern would play. In an ideal world. And I think long-term, that probably is the strategy. Do you know what I mean? From the starting perspective. Then you look at Sard and his line breaking speed. Do you know what I mean? His line breaking speed. And then you look at Zac Williams, his ball playing ability. Sam Doherty, same thing. When you look at Lachie, he has got a point of difference. Long booming kick. He's incredibly direct and he isn't scared to take people on. But his advantage is also his ability to defend as well. He's a very good defender. And if you've watched him, and there's a lot of comments I've seen around him from the media, and I suspect they haven't seen him play and they've just gone on recycled. I've seen a lot of Lachie. I am in love with Lachie. He's got everything for AFL. Everything that is AFL ready. Bit of time. He needs a bit of work. He's not the finished article. But do you know what I mean? Always ran very highly in the 20K time trial. Do you know what I mean? Very solid there. Very quick line breaking speed as well. This is the modern day halfback. The modern day halfback flank. This is what the wins flags these type of players. They're all coming like this. And this kid here will be disgusted he went as late as he went because he's better than what his draft ranking is. Far better. And every junior I've heard who's played against him have all named him as the worst opposition to be matched up on because he's an horrible opposition to go against. So for me, this is where he'll be happy Williams has gone because he wouldn't be replacing your toes. He would be replacing your ball-playing defender. So that's not Plowman, that's not Kemp, that's not McGovern, that's not Marchbank. This is where he wants to play across that half-back line.
Yeah. No, well said. I look forward to seeing what he's going to do.
Go on, Lachie. I'd love him round one, mate. I'd love him.
Speaking of someone we need to give some love to, Mr. Pittonet. I've been looking forward to this. Number 27. I'm actually curious. Who of you in the audience are a believer in Marc Pittonet? Type in yes or no. I feel like he's so unfairly critiqued. It's unbelievable to me. I think he's a really solid player for us. Not a superstar, but like a real true warrior. Obviously, the last 3 games that he came back to play, round 20, he played against the Crows. He missed round 21, then he came back for 22 and 23. We knew the situation. He'd come off a PCL, a really bad injury. Played the first 5 games, played really well. What was he, Pommy? Top 5 in the comp for hitouts to advantage, or top in the comp for hitouts to advantage, something like that. I mean, he's a tough guy, and he creates so much space for our midfield to do what they do at stoppages. And I think he, together with Wiedering, were part of the core reason why we fell off a bit, because of what they do to us structurally in at stoppages and in defense, respectively.
Him versus TDK, and I'll never argue about opinions, but this one I will argue. It isn't even close when fit who is the number 1 ruckman. It isn't close. It's like comparing Charlie Curnow with Levi Casbolt when you compare TDK with Pittonet. You are talking Jets, superstar. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants him versus, do you know what I mean, someone that could have been good. And that is how quick. And you've got to look, right? The obsession with TDK is when we recruited him, our midfield was one-dimensional. It was slower than an old folks' home fucking AFL side. That's how slow it was. So you wanted an athletic ruckman. Now, 2023, how many agile superstars do you want in that midfield? We just need someone to win the tap, stay there and clear house. It's why JSOS looked so good in the ruck, because even though he didn't win the taps, he stayed there and made it hard for you to get to the ball, which allowed the midfield to do it. So for me, Pittonet is numero uno. He's proven his worth. You don't get them stats, top 5 in taps, top 5 in hit-outs to advantage for a reason. Pittonet would make all the 18 sides in the AFLs starting 22, bar someone like probably Melbourne, because they've got 2 of the best. You know what I mean? TDK's place in this side is to be his accessory. 30% tap work, roam around the ground, be his legs, because that's what Pittonet has. But Pittonet, tell you what, he's a tough bastard. I guarantee now Cripps would rather have Pittonet next to him than TDK because he gets there and just literally, you watch him, it's the work he does off the ball. The amount of times he flings someone out of the contest, allowing Walsh to take that loose ball. That is what is hard. That is the hard bit of the Ruckcraft. And that is why he's so important. So important.
Yeah.
Can't love Pittonet enough.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I've grown to love him. I didn't know much about him when he first got to the club. But last year, I think the moment, or there's a few key moments that certain players have which really endear you. For me, it was in the preseason game against the D's where he really took it to Max Gawn. And I thought, oh, all right, it's preseason. Let's not get too excited. But then he did it again in the season. Early on, the way he gets in opponents' faces, we have been crying out for a player like that for a while, and it's also why we loved Liam Stocker so much. Let's be honest, because he got in the face of opponents, he threw his weight around, he bumped fairly, he was a hard guy, and I just think Pitto does that, and he does a really good job in the ruck. There are elements to his game which clearly he needs to work on, and would love for him to get better at. Would love to see him be more of a factor if he rests forward. He didn't kick a goal last year, kicked 5 goals the year before. Would love to see him hit the scoreboard, obviously, a bit more. That would be a big part that would help us this season. Mark the ball a little bit more around the ground, but he really does play a role, and he clears. I just love it. It's really the stoppage work. What he does around stoppages to create space. There's no numbers and there's no stats for it. And I just think, I hope this year there's a little bit more appreciation for him.
When you look at Voss's premium midfield, the midfielders that he really goes to when shit hits the fan, he loves playing that on-ball combo of Hewett, Cripps, right? And then the ruckman who are at the fall of the ball. And then he likes to play Walsh, and Walsh is that outlet factor. When you have Pittonet there, you see how Carlton change, particularly Richmond. Go and watch the fourth quarter. Suddenly, Richmond aren't handling Cripps and Hewett, who are taking the piss themselves. Suddenly, Pittonet's there. He's getting in the way of Prestia to try and get his head down. Suddenly, he hits Pittonet. Cripper gets through an open plane. That is why he's so big. In my honest opinion, and this is going to break people's hearts, if you told me what is harder to replace from covering the draft like I do, you can find 1,000 TDKs. There is at least 3 or 4 in every draft, all varying levels of development required. But this year, 3 of them have been drafted, carbon copies of TDK. TDK is exciting to us because we were one of the first to get him. But now all of them are that prototype. The hard one is a guy like him who does the old stuff, the hard stuff. That's why Darcy's so valuable to Fremantle. And he will be someone to look at. But I would say you'd rather have a fit Pittonet than a fit TDK. And the only argument you could make is the versatility. But for what it does to winning football matches, you can get 3 or 4 people to do TDK's job. It's a bit of a ball ache, but you can do it. Pittonet is hard. And it frees people up. Cripper looks better. Hewett looks better. Walsh looks better. Everyone looks better. And then TDK can do what most people do. Come in them stints when players get hard. You saw it against Doggies. TDK did that wonderfully. As they started to tire, you don't want TDK jumping 9 foot in the air. You can't be arsed with that. So for me, right, Pittonet is incredibly valuable. And he gets the hate Plowman does. But he is massively more important than anyone else. And if Geelong are willing to pay a first and 700k, there should be no Carlton fan that cares about this football club who turns that down. Because I'll tell you what, you can convert a first and 700k off the books and find another one quite quickly.
I think also it creates a really dynamic option for us when you've got Pitto, because there's such a contrast, the two of them, him and TDK. I think TDK, maybe from this year onwards, maybe next year, he's going to start to really add that physicality aspect to his game, because he's clearly growing into that body now, and he's really grown, and it's impressive from Tom. Tom's obviously got that athletic ability as well. And then when I think about the idea of Pitto just, crashing and bashing all game long, and then those stints that Tom has, I think Tom's going to be a lot better placed this season than what he was last season, because last year was really the first time that we got to see him play consistently. So I hope they stick together. I'm a little bit more warm to the idea now than what I used to be of the two of them playing. I like the idea of it now, only if we can get something on return on the scoreboard, because it hurts us if we can't.
Mate, spot on. And I think what Pittonet does is allow us to increase them outputs. I think TDK last year, what happened last year for TDK in reference to him was great Pittonet getting injured because he really worked that ruck craft. He had to do the heavy loading. In an ideal world, he does half the ruck hit outs that he does. And to answer like Andrew's thing, he gets beaten by Gold Coast Suns. You got to remember, people think he gets beaten, but Jared Witts conceded more hit outs, 56, and that was against Pittonet. Pittonet destroyed him that game. So for me, the improvement of Pittonet allows everyone else, and I'd like to see TDK actually rest a bit more forward. And people forget Pittonet 2 years ago rested forward. He was a nightmare as well. Do you know what I mean? So when everything's right, we haven't really seen this list fully fit. There's always a niggle. Hopefully he's fine, because I guarantee you now, Carlton will win a hell of a lot more matches with him than without Pittonet.
Yeah, fair. All right. Speaking of if he's healthy, Mr. Cunningham, number 28. I don't know. I really don't know. I've seen flashes of him. We've all seen flashes of him. There's not much more to add. I don't really know if he's on track to be playing football in round one or be available for round one, I should say. I'm just not sure. He's had one of the longest rehabilitations from an ACL tear that I remember seeing in recent times. I don't know if there's been setbacks. I think there might have been setbacks with the way that they were putting the load back on him. It's just a really important year for Dave Cunningham, because I don't know what his contract situation is, Pommy, but I don't imagine he'd have too many years left on a contract. And I think you made this comment. I mean, you've made this comment a few times, but we're now at the point where a guy like a Dave Cunningham, it's just kind of like, are we going to see you or are we not? Because if we're not, we can find something in the draft.
Well, I mean, this is the situation now where we've got to be serious. It's his last year, so he'll be a restricted free agent this year, and depending on how many games, I'd imagine that will be. Depends if anyone comes in for him, I suppose. We're at the stage now as a football club where we can't talk about potential. We can't talk about potential, and there's no doubt Connors could have been very good for this football club. At this stage of his career, he should be on 50 games minimum. Do you know what I mean? And we've got all these stories about him, but not meant to be. This is one of them ones where I just think he's going to be the lucky prize, where mentally for me, he's not on the list. And I long for the day Voss goes round 7 in Connors, and Connors does what he did against Hawthorn that game. But it's going to be a weird one, isn't it? It's going to be a really weird kind of thing, isn't it, really? It's going to be really an interesting year because we don't know. We never really got to see what he was like after the last injury.
I feel like he could be... I feel like what he was going to be before he got injured with the ACL was kind of what we're looking for Josh Honey to be, but I actually think Cunners is probably more dynamic at ground level. He's just a bit more. He's able to hit the scoreboard more than what Josh Honey can. I guess what's the spot for him? Is it a Zac Fisher half forward type position? Is that his aim? Is he a potential wingman?
Forward, isn't it?
Yeah. Is he a wingman? Does he have that ability? I don't know. I actually don't know anymore.
Well, I mean, I think he was at the best, wasn't he? So just to confirm, he is a restricted free agent because he's entering his 8th year. So restricted free agents, it's not just the top 25. They changed it. I think it was about 2015 that it also is the length of contracts and the amount of it. So, but to answer your question, Terry, where is his best position? Like midfield, maybe, but high half forward, I think he played his best football. But it's one of them things, isn't it, now, especially with the quality of draftees, and that's something that's not talked about enough. The quality of draftees now is probably 10 times what it was 10 years ago for the bit part players. And what I mean is the squad players. So that's what I was talking about this year. Pick 30 and pick 40 were very valuable because there is some solid squad players there now, and you can start to build these workhorses. If Cunners plays 2 games this year or 5 games, why is he on the list? Because he's going to be commanding 300, 400,000 because of his age. Pay a kid 100K. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it is that stage where if we're a serious football club now, we stop keeping players on the list because they might be good. And we just become ruthless. And there, your Sam Phillips, your David Cunninghams, we'll get an 18-year-old in and give them 2 years because it's going to be cheaper and there's a ceiling. There's no point. We're no longer that club now where we have an obligation to do it. Let's be serious. And I love Cunners. But let's be honest. How many years are we going to have him in the sick note?
Yeah, it's the same conversation every year. And this is the thing, between him, Jack Martin, I don't know if you put Honey in the same group, but there's a dynamic X-factor-ish forward midfielder hybrid there that is waiting to emerge. So I wish it to be Dave Cunningham. I wish we're talking about Dave Cunningham miraculously playing 22 games this season. I really do. At this point, mate, I'm just unsure.
Mate, I think if you have what happens every season, so Marchbank and McGovern go down, Martin, Cunningham's go down. Let's just say that happens again. If this is this year, if last year was this year, there's no way all of them would be on the list. There would be no way. If this time next year, we're talking about Martin's played 4 games, then got injured, then he played 2 games, total 8. And McGovern and Marchbank have played 12 games between them. Carlton have got to be ruthless because at that stage, you're going to say it's there. And like the difference is there's credits in the bank. So Josh, Charlie was worth the wait. Charlie's every game up until he got injured was elite. Cunners, 2 games. Mixed in with some average games where we kept saying, oh, he could be good. Charlie, there was no doubt, was going to be terrific when he was taking the piss out of the Dogs backline in his second year. And he did it multiple times. This is where we've got to get ruthless. You can't just keep waiting. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? If you're wanting to meet a boy or a girl and you're in the bar and you're just looking at them, at some point you've got to get up and say hello, right? Oh, they're not going to come to you. You've got to make the first move sometimes. Same with Carlton. So for me, love Cunners. Potential is up here. But now we're getting at the stage where this guy should be fighting for Brownlows. Do you know what I mean? Players have won Brownlows from this season. So if he hasn't done it, why is he there? Why is he there? And that's no skin off him. He may go VFL and come back in the state system and be a good player. But I just think Carlton can't keep hanging on. We have way too many superstars. So why do we need David Cunningham if he is injured? Heaven forbid another year. Got so many superstars. Why do we need to keep a potential one?
Yeah, fair. All right. So I forgot to ask this for all the others. Best 22, 23 to 30, or the rest? If he's fit.
If he's fit, he'd be borderline. Like on his day, 22 to 30, he'd be in that category. Like if he was fit round 1, I don't want him to play round 1. I want to see 5 games in the VFL.
See if he can back it up. Fair. I think I would say the same. Yeah. I think I'd say the same. If he was fit for round 1, I'd want to see him make sure he can back it up.
Yeah, I just want to see him. That's where I want to see him. Like I really want to see him get them 5 games, show he can play week in, week out, first of all. Because that's the thing with Cunners. He plays 2 games as a niggle, has 4 weeks off. And just make him earn it. Because he's in a position where we have 100 players who can play. So we don't need him round 1. Wouldn't it be great if he averaged 2 goals a game, VFL, and suddenly came in ready, looking good?
Fair. Speaking of best 22, what a pickup. George Hewett, number 29. He had an elite season last year by any standard. Really unfortunate that we weren't able to see him for the rest of the season after he hurt himself. He played his last game in round 18 against Geelong, and we did not see him again. Mate, this guy, he's my new... with him and Jacob, they're my favourites now. These just no nonsense job doers. But Hewett's like a job doer at the elite standard. Like, it's not flashy, but it's the first option. It's the right option, and it's hard and it's tough, and he tackles, and he doesn't request too much attention. He doesn't really want to have any attention. He just wants to come in and play elite football and go home and be a dad. I love him. I love everything about him and what he stands for. Big fan.
In my opinion, I would say when we did that conversation, who's the most important person to Carlton?
Yeah.
I would say as a player, it's probably, who's the best player? It's probably Walsh, Wheater, Cripps. But I think if you actually look at it and you downplay ability and go, right, structure, what makes it tick? It's George Hewett. And I think that's unarguable. It's George Hewett. The fact that Cripper polled more votes with him looked more damaging going forward because Hewett did the heavy lifting. Correct. And he worked as that little guy taking the first hard touch and then giving it off. Incredibly underrated footballer, George Hewett. Incredibly underrated. And I did find an interview 2020 with Horse, who's just raving about him, doing the things that don't go unnoticed, how hard he is at the ball, how he just backs it up and can repeat the same motion, an incredible ability of repetition. I love George Hewett. I can't speak highly enough of George. Someone who I think from the first minute I saw him play for Carlton, fell in love with him. I was like, where have you been all my life, baby?
Where have you been? Yeah. And I hate to do this because I don't like doing if this, but this. If he plays round 23 last year, we win the game. There's just no doubt about it. He just settles us at stoppages all the time.
There's something about him, isn't there? Like, I mean, I've got to knock him. I can't think of anyone worse running into the goal square kicking because there was a few times he, against Frio, I think it was, he did it, ran total clear and blazed it out of bounds on the full. But aside from that, for me, I'm with you. I think if he played all them games last year, Carlton would have pissed in the finals. He's got that confidence. When it was hard, that Hawks game is a great example. Yes. Carlton's midfield was being overrun. And he was just like calm under chaos. There's players going everywhere, and Hewett's just like, all right, who wants it? There's no rushing him. He looks like the kind of guy that just doesn't care. Do you know what I mean? Pressure doesn't happen. He just embraces it. And I love that moment against the Hawks when they came back. And he's kind of smiling at the centre bounce. He's got like a sick Joker-style smile. Like, you could see some of the Carlton guys were like, oh, shit. And Hewett's like, this is brilliant. I love this.
I really don't expect much more of him than what we got last year. If we get that last year, whatever we got, that level, go for it. He's one of very few players that I think I might say that about. It's like, just go be you. Go be George Hewett, because there's a real high level of trust. He's got a really nice equilibrium to him in the difference between his best games and his worst games. Like, his worst games are really not that bad at all.
There's something about him. I remember it was the Port game as well, where there was them fisticuffs, and like it pans to him, and he's like there, kind of with a little grin on his face. Like, I reckon George Hewett, if he wasn't a professional footballer, might have been a psychopath. Yeah, he might have been one of them people. He's got that like Dexter vibe about him. Do you know what I mean? Like the lovable serial killer. He's ruthless. Yeah. You know what he is? He's ruthless at doing the basics, and that's why we like him. Correct. He isn't going to win us a game by beating 8 players and kicking a 50-yard goal. But you know what he does? He kills you with consistency, and he's just monotonous with the basics. And Jesus, if we had him 10 years ago, we might have won a flag.
Correct. Well, I think with him, we know the back is an issue for him. It's something that's been, it's something he's dealt with in his career. So maybe they do something a little different with him and rest him in round 8 and then round, 16. Maybe we need to change up the way we manage his season, because he's a finals type player, a guy you want in the last, 8 weeks of the season. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, he was one of them players. If you watch Sydney, they rested him quite a lot at the back in the half back line, which is interesting because when Walsh is there is probably going to be needing a midfielder to drop out for Doc to get their midfield minutes. So I wonder if Voss has got a mind on that. You look at his history, he played a lot of games repeatedly for Sydney. A lot of people talk about that injury year, which was a freak injury in 2020. Other than that, though, he never missed a game for Sydney. I think he missed 2 games in 6 years. And what they did is they rotated him off the halfback in parts of the game, or in some cases, the full game, and gave him the rest from the physicality. So if Dockie's going to go on the ball, suddenly, there it is, isn't it? There's that rotation. Maybe Voss is smarter than we think. He knows how to get Hewett through the whole year.
It's true. Okay. Charlie, go on, mate.
This is an easy one, isn't it? Best player in the league. What more? You don't need a preview or a review. You are looking at the benchmark, all the other melts in the AFL have to aspire to. But seriously, what a year last year. Do you know what I mean? We made a bold call this time last year that
you made a bold call.
Win the Coleman. A lot of you laughed at me. Some of you put money on it, though. But mate, honestly, you are looking at the best player. The best player. For me, Carlton's secret is this man here. And I think you're looking at a footballer that can combat Jeremy Cameron for the best forward in the league. I know the media love Cameron. I think Charlie's got the potential to be better. Honestly, better. I think he's got things that Cameron doesn't have. And he's got time on his side. And what a return. So when we talked about Zac Williams at the start, people were saying Charlie was cooked and done. People said that about Doc. You know what? Carlton have an uncanny knack of you have an ACL, you come back a better player. So Zac Williams is at the best football club in the world because about half of our list has been told to retire and are still there and still playing. And Charlie, what a comeback story. And for me, him and Harry Mackay, that is the scariest forward line. No defender wants to play that. And Charlie's better, but Harry's not so bad either.
Yeah, we must not take for granted how we were thinking this time last year or even the year before. Like, it got to the point where you didn't bring up Charlie's name because it was just like, oh, don't want to talk about it. We don't know. I think it was 6 or 7 setbacks in a row, whatever the case was. I think it just goes to show what can be, what is possible. And that really, I mean, Charlie was, there's only one person who thought Charlie would do what he did last year. It literally was you 12 months ago, maybe on this day when we were doing the previews. I remember you saying it. I remember you saying, yeah, he'll kick 60 odd goals or 70 odd goals. He'll win the Coleman. And I remember sitting here thinking, all right, well, we've gotten a little carried away tonight here, Pom. But fair enough. Time. Yeah. And the thing about him is he just turned 25. So let's start there. Just turned 25. And he did the fan Q&A the other day. And I think and then he did a little spot interview with Carlton Media about, you know, the preseason and all of that. I think for the first time of watching Charlie and listening to him speak and all of that, I started noticing a little shift in the maturity, just in the way he speaks. And then you look at the list, you know, the reality is like the club is led now by that 2015 draft and Cripps and Doherty. And maybe if you want to throw Ed Curnow in for a, you know, depth locker room guy kind of thing, the senior heads. But really it's Wiedering, it's Mackay, it's Curnow, it's these guys with Cripps and Doc, and, you know, Walsh is obviously a young leader as well. And Charlie's now got some responsibility and, you know, hopefully, fingers crossed, you know, for a clean run of health for the rest of his career. Like, he's going to improve. He will improve.
I've had the privilege of speaking with Charlie a few times in my life, and each time I've acted like a complete wet wipe. But but I do appreciate him trying to speak with me. God bless him. He did answer my question the other day, so that's made my year. So really, we're already winning. But one thing that impressed me about Charlie this year, particularly speaking to him, is his self-reflection. Unfortunately, the sands of time have aged him and weathered him, and he's grown up. And I had this moment with him where I had a beer and I was chatting to him about the Richmond game, and he had a really poor game by his standards. He had a load of opportunities. Positionally, he was woeful. He got battered. And I remember him saying to me, throughout the game, he kept thinking, if I lean back in and engage early, I can beat these guys for foot speed. They can't keep up with me. But he kept saying he got lost in the moment and he kept allowing them to lead him to the ball. And he told me that when he got off the field, he was so angry. He watched the tape. He hated himself. And he said to me, we played Fremantle that week. And he says, this week, I'm going to go up against their best guy and I'm going to engage contact and I'm going to make them follow me. And he absolutely tore Freo apart. It was like 4-6 or something. And I had a smile to my face because I was like, he told me he was going to do that. And I remember doing the watch along and seeing him do it every time the ball came in. He nudges them and then he takes off. And I'm like, yes, he's learned. And that is very dangerous. He's starting to believe he's good.
Yeah.
Before, he was good. Now he's starting to believe I'm good, but there's more to me. There's more to me. And everyone I've spoken to, especially Dom last year, Charlie's got that leadership. He pulls them over to one side, tells them how he beats them, tells them what makes it hard, how to beat them, and also talks about the privilege of playing football because he's nearly had it taken away 3 times. So for me, what a human being. I can't love a person outside of my family more than I love Charlie. He makes me happy and I love him.
Yeah. Wait, so how many goals this season?
88.
I'm not going to doubt you this year.
He's going back to back, though. I can let you know. Charlie will win it the second time, and then we can say Jeremy Cameron who.
Very good. What about you guys in the audience? I'm curious to see how many goals for Charlie. Let us know in the comments.
You know what, as well? Spoiler, Charlie Curnow will kick the goal after a siren to give Carlton their first finals win since 13.
It's going to be Charlie, for sure. It was
that St Kilda goal. Do you remember the St Kilda goal, the off one step, 65 meters?
Yeah, I do remember. All right, who we got here? Gavin says 150, Wildy 74, 95 from Arthur, 82, 100. Oh, we're pushing. We're getting close to 100.
Jesus, 150. I'll lose my voice singing the song.
Goodness,
150
can you imagine?
times.
Well, he'd need to average how many goals a game to get to 150? Is that?
It's a lot. What is it? It's like 4 points summit.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Let's do. It's 6.
6 goals a game. Okay, he's got a bag of 10 in him.
What a day, though! What a day!
What a watch along.
I hope he does.
Right.
Yeah, I won't be anyone happier than me if I have to sing that song 150 times.
I love it. So, what we're going to do is, ladies and gents, the show is over. We're going to play the game, higher or lower. We're going to play the game, and we're going to try and beat our score. So, for those of you that weren't here last week, wow, you're in for a treat. Where are we? I think this is the one. And then we want to share our screen.
This game is super hard as well, just so you know.
It's actually fun. I'm a big fan. Because
I might be a stat nerd, but historical stats, unless I've looked them up, I'm not your guy. Right? Unless I've needed them for something. It's not something that registers in my brain.
All right. I've just got to play around with something here in the back end. So basically, this a gentleman named Gareth emailed me a few weeks ago, and he's created this game. It's basically higher or lower. You're going to have 2 footballers that have played in the AFL at some point through history, some many, many years ago and some recent. And basically, you've just got to keep going until you get it wrong. We're going to play this every week for the next little bit. And we're going to stop when we get it wrong. So last week, we had 10. I do have the URL for the game. No, I do, but I don't want to give it to you because then you can cheat. So if you want to play on your own, DM me on Instagram and I'll send it to you. But
Jesus,
we're going to try.
Drew Petrie, I even forgot he existed. But what a nose on Drew!
I know. Let's begin. So who kicked more goals, Drew Petrie or Bill Moore? I've got no idea. This could be over before we even start.
It's a trick one, isn't it? Because like with it being olden days where they used to score like 100 goals to 2, like it throws. I'm going to go Drew.
This could be over.
That's a good start. I should have gone with the gut. I talked myself out of it. Should have gone with the old guy.
No, we're going to play again. We're going to play
We'll
again.
play again. We can't fail on the first.
Yeah. Okay. This is Bradshaw, right? This isn't a trick question.
Do you know what I mean? Coming off halfback. Do you know what I mean? Backline. But then again, it is the old days, isn't it? Where everyone kicked 10 goals. Like, do you know what I mean? Danny Bradshaw, 14-year career? It's got to be, hasn't it? It's got to be Bradshaw.
It's got to be.
If he hasn't kicked more than a defender, he needs to retire.
Right.
There you are.
Great. Okay, we're off. Okay, Bradshaw or Sticks? This is easy, right? Sticks. Still Sticks, right?
What a lid on Waterhouse, though.
Yeah, what the fuck is going on there?
It's got to be Sticks.
It's Sticks. All right.
Yeah. Oh, easy.
Yeah.
386, though, is a tough one, but got to be Richo.
Richo, I'm pretty sure Richo kicked 800.
He can't be a commentator if he lost to Waterhouse.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gents, need your help. Lindsay White or Richo? I'm pretty sure this is still Richo, right?
Got to be Richo. 9-year career. 9-year career versus what? 16-year career. He's got to have won that.
True. All right, I'm going in with Richo.
You watch Lindsay 2,800.
It wasn't too bad. 540 goals in 9 seasons. Oof. Billy Brownless or Lindsay? This is interesting. I need some help. I've got no clue.
11 years versus 9 just always throws you there. But
that's a lot of goals.
That's a lot of goals, and that's nearly 50 a year.
Oof. Need some help.
I'm going to go with the theory that we went with last time and actually back it. It's got to be the old guy versus the modern day footballer. Has to. Because that's what throws you. Them old guys, they throw you because they get it. Thomas saying Billy Brownless kicked 600. I think that's a lie.
Oh, love it. Wait for it.
You tried.
This would be G-Train, surely, right?
Yeah, surely G-Train.
Surely. I'm pretty sure he's kicked 100 goals in a season.
You've also got to remember as well that what could throw us here is St Kilda do big up any player, so he might have kicked 10. But
speaking of St Kilda,
surely.
Sorry, I'm gonna address this. Speaking of St Kilda, the state of Jake from Saints TV getting his little viewers by making fun of Carlton. It's not on, and I'm not going to reply to your TikTok. So those of you watching at home, just stand by because karma is a dish best served after a win. So I look forward to.
I wanted to know when this rivalry with St Kilda happened.
Well, there is no rivalry, but people need Carlton to be relevant. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is tough. 549's that sweet spot.
Okay,
I'm pretty sure it is Gordon Coventry.
It's Coventry, right? Oh,
yeah. I was going to say, I know he kicked an awful lot.
Easy. This would also be Coventry, right?
Yeah, I don't think Brown's had 1,000.
Yeah. All right. Great. Okay.
Oh, we're kicking ass here.
So this is to tie our high score from last week. This will be Carey, surely.
It's what's it called? He played in the sweet era, Carey, didn't he, as well? Back end, kicked a lot of snags.
There we go.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, here we are. Look, we're getting better.
Here we go. This would also be Carey. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We have a new record. Let's go.
Oh. Surely Lee Matthews. I know he was a thug and he was tough, but he liked to goal as well. I've seen a few clips of him kicking snags.
I'm just going to get some confirmation from the chat.
Chat, are we happy with Matthews?
Are we locking in? Are we locking in Matthews? I'll give it 10 more seconds.
It's a long career as well.
Yeah. So what's that? 17 years. Okay. Yeah, it's got to be. Love it.
Yeah.
This is still the Lee Matthews, right? That's a lot of goals. Yeah, it's a lot of goals.
It's good when it's like a 900.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a tough one, isn't it?
I still think Fev kicked more than 500 goals.
He did what, 99 in 1 year, so that is a big chunk of 500.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Terrific.
Jesus, we just beat him.
Look at us. Ooh.
Scott Lucas. What a name. 2 first names. You can never trust it. Surely Fev. Scott Lucas. Surely. I know he's had a decent length career, but surely Fev.
Surely. All right, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Oh, we're killing this.
We are killing this. This is great.
Dermy, 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh! I am shocked by that.
Wow.
JJ backed me as well, straight away. Look, everyone's backing us.
Devastated. I mean, whatever. We got better, but still.
That's my fault. I shouldn't have got so excited.
And then they got Papley just to rub it in.
I mean, Scott Lucas, you know what I mean? I mean, the shit version, the shit half of the Twin Towers, the Essendon dubbed them, wasn't he? I mean, Jesus, that's unbelievable.
He's come back to haunt us.
Anyway, that's a new record.
That was. Thanks to those of you that played along. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to do that again next week. We've got a big ass score to beat. That's 15. So we'll have some fun with that. Gareth, thank you very much for sending that through. That's got us entertained a little bit more. Guys, open training on Friday, I believe. 9 a.m. Gates are open. Register on the Carlton website. Do what you got to do. I will. I should be there. We'll get a training report out, and then we inch closer. Pommy, you're going to be at the Carlton Collingwood practice match from
mate. All booked off, ready to do some stats and stuff from that day as well. And yeah, hopefully it's going to be fun as well, because it's the last time we play Collingwood where Twitter won't be in a meltdown.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I won't be there. Carlton Collingwood, unfortunately. One of my best friends is getting married on the Friday, so I'll have to tune in afterwards.
What a ridiculous time to get married.
He is a Carlton supporter as well, and at least it wasn't throughout the season, but it is just one of those things. What do you do? You know, he's a good friend.
He surely has to move that a day forward. His missus will understand.
We need someone to do the fan cams. We'll have to chat about that because it won't be me.
I don't mind doing it. I'll go. I'll go. Do a match report and come back and say, what did you think of winning by 100 goals?
Wow. Stepping in the chair for the fan cams, mate. Big time.
Yeah, someone's just got to be very emotive. But you're lucky it's a pre-season game, so there's not much pressure on you to replicate me.
It's true. All right, ladies and gents, have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in. See you next week. 38 days left. Pommy, see you next week, mate.
See you, mate.